Hey folks, Steve here with an unbagging video. I guess that's what it would be called. It's not an unboxing. Today we're looking at Labyrinth, the Forever War 2015 to question mark, the combined rules and playbook and all the other fun stuff that comes in the expansion to the game Labyrinth, the Global War on Terror, the War on Terror. So I got my nice big package from GMT this month that included their games that were sort of slowed down by the COVID situation, or has been slowed down by the COVID situation. I got Imperial Struggle, I got Men of Iron Tri-Pack. So I want to do a little bit of a quick unboxing or unbagging video for this guy. And if you're not familiar with Labyrinth, the Forever War for some reason, just know that it is an expansion to the game Labyrinth War on Terror 2001 to question mark. This was a game published, try to think, wait, what, 2008? Something like that, maybe something like that. I don't remember the exact time it was originally published. I'd have to go look. I had a first edition copy. I upgraded to the double thick box years back around the time that the first expansion for Labyrinth came out. And so for a little bit of context so that you understand, obviously, as it says on the box, the War on Terror, the original game covered from 2001 to what would eventually be recognized to be around 2008. You can almost look like it from a sort of American-centric view, the Bush presidency years of the War on Terror. And then it got an expansion called The Awakening, which covered from 2010 to roughly 2015-ish, back when it was published, and you could sort of see it as the Obama years, again, if you're taking a American-centric view of things, and it had new mechanics and different things that were included into the game. And now we sort of have the third part in that, which is an extension of the gameplay experience from 2015 to question mark, the Forever War. And I guess you can interpret some of this as the Trump years, again, with an American-centric view of things. And, you know, the cards and a lot of the subject matter of this expansion have to do with things that are going on right now, today, that are unresolved. In fact, some things maybe are a little premature in terms of, like, even what they're displaying, because so much of the consequences of what's happening, even within the last 5 years, are still yet to be understood. And so, like, you know, for Labyrinth it was the same way, for Labyrinth The Awakening it was the same way, and so too with the Forever War, covering topics that some may feel, I don't know, some people may feel uncomfortable playing a game with such just raw and recent things that people are still being directly impacted on a day-to-day basis, all through the lens of a global war on terror, which can be very difficult to align in one's mind, because things that might be a domestic concern, you know, if it's a good thing from a domestic point of view, but it's a bad thing for the global war on terror. I mean, how does a game operate with that? I don't know. It's all kind of crazy stuff, right? So it'll be interesting to see how this applies. And one of the nice things about Labyrinth and the expansion series is that with each expansion, you can take the content, the new cards, the rules, and include it in the base game, not just to play new scenarios, but to play in an extended campaign. So you could play from 2001 to, you know, roughly 2020, or, you know, what is 2020, as a big narrative of the global war on terror. And as the event cards come in from the different expansions over time, you know, history kind of gets played through, our recent history, last 20 years, more or less, and it's kind of an interesting thing. I've played the base game. I've kind of messed around with the previous expansion, and we'll see how this goes with the Forever War expansion. But it is an interesting game, and being able to play that full campaign is definitely interesting. So let's unbag this sucker and kind of take a look at what we've got. First things first, obviously, is you have the combined rules and playbook. Kind of interesting. It took on a orange and black theme for the art, so kind of it's very distinct from the, you know, the green from the original Labyrinth, and even the expansion for Awakening didn't quite have the same kind of color designation here, so kind of interesting. This is a, 32 pages, and it is typical GMT production color 2-column format. It gives you the new rules. It gives you all the card descriptions, even though it doesn't tell you what the card does in game. It provides some context about what that card is. any sort of bias that might be there politically is, I think pretty even-handed. I did read through this, a PDF version that was published on GMT's website some time back, so this isn't really totally new to me, but you have different scenarios, different information in here to get you to play, again, the different scenarios that are possible, whether it's I'm just playing a 2015 game or I'm playing the whole shebang from 2001 with everything situated to play together. So good stuff there. You get a couple of charts. So let's see, event instructions table, the AI bot charts. So one of the strengths of Labyrinth is that there are bots that you can play so that you are able to play solo. There is a lot of information here, obviously, to digest if you're looking to play that way. But the game comes with 4 different double-sided sheets to help you along with that. This is going to accompany your base game charts that help you just play the game, period. And then otherwise, the rest of the components are relatively straightforward. You get a little counter sheet that has a handful of counters, and these are to help represent event cards that have been played, so you get the little marker to remind you that they are in effect, or whatever the case is, or a little marker to show the Qatari crisis if it is played. So relatively straightforward thing, not a whole counter sheet. And then you actually get, and I was surprised at the number of cards. It's quite a number. I thought maybe we'd get like one stack of cards. You get 2 big stack cards with all the event cards, and the same as all the other Labyrinth game cards. That there's a U.S. Event cards. There are sort of the jihadist event cards, and then there's some that are combined, like many card-driven games. And so those are just examples. I do want to crack this open and look through some of the cards, but I won't force you to go through that on camera. I am interested to see the cards, because it's one thing to read the playbook, right? And you can say, oh, well, they included a card about this event or this thing that has gone on in the world, like the Khashoggi crisis, right? I mean, I'm familiar with that. I've read the blurb in this book, but it makes me wonder, what does the card actually say? And there's all kinds of those to evaluate, and hey, does that match my expectation, or does that match what I understand to be reality, or whatever it is out there? I don't know. It's controversial stuff here, but here you go. So yeah, relatively straightforward. It is a baggy expansion. Now, the one thing that I've tried to do with my last expansion for Labyrinth was get everything back in the main, thick box of Labyrinth. And I'm looking at this, and I'm already wondering if I'm going to be able to fit everything back inside. You can see I've already had to compromise on some things. I can get some of that stuff back in there. Would I be able to fit everything back in the box right now? I bet not. I bet I couldn't, but it's worth a shot to see on camera. So you can see there's a little bit of overflow here. If I try to put everything back in the box, and if I try to put the lid back on it, it's just a little too tight. It's just a little too overflowed, I guess, is one way to look at it. So I'll have to decide how do I want to store all of my Labyrinth stuff. So if you're at home and you sort your games differently, or you have the big thick box, and you want to try to fit everything in the one box, you might have to do some things different than I have. I use the board divider. I might have to take that out and just accept that to fit everything in the box, I got to remove this and just use as much efficiency of space as I can, but I won't worry about that today. But just so an example for you guys at home, if you're looking to get everything in one box, you might have to make some sacrifices of the divider, because even with the extra thick box, it's hard to get everything back inside. So there you go, guys. The Labyrinth expansion, the Forever War 2015 to to 2020, essentially. And we'll see, will we get a 2022 expansion in the future? How far do we take the saga that is the War on Terror? And at what point does it stop being as relevant? As a short bit of commentary on this, if you think back to when the game was published, originally, way back. It sort of evolved out of Twilight Struggle, and Twilight Struggle was a game that was designed to show the conflict between two superpowers or two different ideologies on the world stage, and it was a saga that lasted for decades, from the 40s to the early 90s, basically, and or late 80s, depending on how you want to look at it. And it was a very defining time, right? The Cold War was a defining time. The War on Terror has been a defining time, and as someone who grew up with the War on Terror, in my face all the time, every day, it is kind of interesting to look back and say, okay, well, the War on Terror, I mean, it was more relevant, it was most relevant, seemingly, in those times between 2001 and, say, like 2018. And, the things that are going on that impact the War on Terror, or just the concept of terror in general, I don't know, can be confined by a game system like Labyrinth. I think for some time periods it makes sense, but the future brings new variables, and I think over time we might have to say, okay, Labyrinth, that's enough, because there's a new zeitgeist, there's something else going on that is beyond the Cold War, that is beyond the War on Terror, and is its own challenge. And I think, without diving off the deep end into other topics that don't belong in this video, I think we could see some seeds of that even now. So, things to chew on for the future, my friends. In any case, hope you enjoyed this video, guys. We'll take care to see you in the next one, I guess. If you like this video, hit like. If you want to see more, hit subscribe. All sorts of videos, all sorts of fun stuff there on the channel. And until next time, take care, keep gaming.